This is Radio Chatskill. I'm Tim Bruno. 54 years ago, a pivotal moment in music and culture took place not too far from here, the 1969 Woodstock Festival. Keep the Dream Flowing is a Woodstock 1969 podcast devoted to the history of Woodstock with recollections from artists and the crew of Woodstock and the members of the Woodstock Nation. A recent episode featured Woodstock attendee Patrick Colucci. Patrick has started a petition to add names to the Woodstock Monument in Bethel that he says have been missing since that monument was erected in 1984. In this excerpt of the Keep the Dream Flowing podcast, Patrick recounts returning to the Woodstock site in 1979 that had no commemoration, and then when he came back a few years later, when Wayne Seward's monument was being erected.
10 years after Woodstock, 1979, Maria bought me a brand new Triumph motorcycle for my birthday. And on the anniversary date, I decide to drive back up to Woodstock. And I'm driving up from Tarrytown. I'm reliving the whole Woodstock experience in my mind. And all of a sudden, I'm on 17B and I'm on Herd Road and I blow right past where the field was and I don't recognize it. I got back and I figured out where it was. There was a fence up and there were horses running around. And I said, oh my God, there's nothing here. I expected a brass band, a plaque, something to commemorate something to me that I thought was just so important, but it seemed like nobody cared. And I couldn't comprehend it. I went into town and I started talking to the townspeople and I said, hey, you guys, how come there's no recognition? There's nothing up there. People said to me, you hippies ruined our town. We want nothing to do with you. We don't want you ever to come back. And I literally had tears in my eyes when I got on my motorcycle and slowly drove the 100 miles back home. I was devastated. I said, was I crazy? I said, there's something wrong with me. Why do I think it's so important where everybody else disparages it? The news media was not paying it attention. Very little positivity anywhere about what happened there. And to me, I knew it meant so much more. So fast forward to 1982. All of a sudden, I find out there's a monument on the grounds.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely leaped out of my chair when I read it or saw it, wherever the heck it was. And I said, God bless Wayne Seward. God bless him. He put something up there and he justified what happened. He made it real. He zeroed in. He gave a beacon, an icon that something important happened there. And for 40 years, I've been going up there to that monument since it was built at least once a year. And I've met people from all around the world. We have a love for it. And I've spoken to so many people, not only about what happened at Woodstock and my story, but about the monument itself. Mm-hmm. And the conversation always came up. Isn't there something missing on that monument? There's 4 performers, okay, formed at Woodstock. One in particular gave Bert Sommer, who gave a 10-song set and got the only standing ovation up there. He was that good, okay? He was in Hair. He had a lead. The guy was multi-talented. He sang, I think it was for doing the cover on Paul Simon's America, right? If you get the opportunity to listen to that, it is just incredible. Well, anyway, so you got Quill, you got Keith Hartley Band, you got Bert Sommer and Tim Hardin.
Right.
Yep. These guys were left off the monument. Now, the reason that happened, in my view, is the fact that there was no internet, there was no cell phone use back then, and Wayne was going off of memory and the movie. And those guys were left out of the movie for a couple of different reasons, primarily political. They weren't signed to Warner Brothers. Now, what a travesty that they were left off, not deliberately, but they were left off. They were so close to the brass ring. The thing to note is that there were several renditions of that monument. That monument is not the original monument. The first plaque was stolen. Then it went through a couple of transitions with different signatures on the plaque as to who was responsible for putting it up. And so I know it's a sacred icon to many people the way it sits now. However, I think the fact that those 4 people were left off is a travesty. And I talked to people for 40 years and everybody notices it. Many people notice it, not all people. So myself and Billy Lucano decided that we were going to do something about it. We're Woodstockers, okay? We're used to causes maybe way back then. And maybe it's time for another cause. And whether you agree with it or not, what we decided to do was redesign the monument, however, keeping it with the integrity that Wayne Sayward designed it as. Mm-hmm. And what we did was we decided to, through hard work and consulting with architects and artists and regular people, veterans, over the years, came up with a design which is very similar to what's there now, except that in the very center of the 2 plaques that list the performers, we have a smaller plaque that will add Quill, Hartley, Somers, and Hardin. And we also divided that into 2 sections and added the 4 young producers who, without them, it wouldn't have happened. So the 4 producers are under them. And same font, same colors. It blends in perfectly. We had to take Wayne Sayward's name out of that center and put it down towards the base under the big plaque where an artist's signature usually goes. And before we decided to do that, we contacted Nina Sayward, his widow, and told her what we were attempting to do. And we actually got her blessing because we explained to her that we wanted Wayne's work to be historically correct. Mm-hmm. And we wanted it to honor Wayne, who did a tremendous job. And by placing his name at the base, at the bottom, on the top, but at the bottom under the big plaque, that the first thing you would see as you walked up to that monument was his name as the sculptor. And as you read up, you would see everything else. And as you read down, the last thing you see is Wayne's name. Okay? So it's a place of honor. Rather than be up in the top there where it sort of gets lost in the mix, it's right where it should be in our estimation. And she agreed. The thing is that Wayne himself, when he designed that plaque, of course, he used the iconic Skolnick representation of the catbird and the guitar on top. He adopted that. But on the plaque itself, the main plaque, he actually had Max Yasgur's name on it when he presented it to June Jellish, who wanted to donate it, who was going to pay him. And when he presented that plaque to her, she said, unless you take Max Yasgur's name off it and put my name on it, you're not getting paid. And I can verify that, and I can prove it. And if you want me to, I will, but not right here. That's from Wayne himself, okay? And it can be verified. He resented that. We reimagined the design of the monument. We presented it to Eric Francis and also to Neil Hitch at Bethel Woods, explained what we were trying to do and how it was such a shame that those guys who put their heart and soul into it, like all the other performers, aren't on there, and they deserve to be there. And we made somewhat minor other modifications, like John Sebastian's name was respelled correctly instead of the way it's spelled. And we added the fourth date, 15, 16, 17, 18. I put up online both monuments, the original and the one we proposed, next to each other. Most people that look at it initially can't tell the difference. But when you look close, you see the corrections that were made. So we didn't alter too much the look, and we kept the integrity. But we didn't do it for Pat Colucci. We didn't do it for Billy Locano. We didn't do it for anyone. We did it for future generations. And those kids that are going to come decades from now and look at that monument and read it, when the rest of us are gone and can't give the literal history of actually what happened, they're going to see it and it's going to last. And some people propose, well, put a separate plaque next to it. That would be the wrong thing to do for Wayne, because that would be admitting that Wayne made a mistake. He should have. We don't want to do that. We want to honor Wayne. He's our hero. He's the one that got the job done. Okay, along with other people, as you mentioned. But we feel that that's a lasting tribute, and that's the way it should go. We did a survey. The petition was not so much get all the names on there and shove it down Bethel Wood's throat. The petition was more or less a survey to feel what the consensus was. We've got so many hearts and likes. We got over 1,000 signatures. Even Arlo Guthrie signed it. And he said they played there and they deserve to be on the monument. Lately, I got a post from Molly Lang, and she's happy and she supports it also. So we have a groundswell of people that want to have this done. I think it's the right thing to do. I understand people's reservations, but I think it can be done in such a way that it doesn't detract from the original. It only enhances it. It keeps it historically correct, and it also gives tribute to the artistic vision that Wayne had.
That's an excerpt from the Keep the Dream Flowing podcast, a Woodstock 1969 podcast. You can hear the full episode and other episodes wherever you get your podcasts.